Shenanigans from Chris Kavanagh weren't enough to stop Fulham from taking a point against Manchester United to start things off at Craven Cottage. This is how it all unfolded. There were quite a few changes from Marco Silva, including a system change to a 5 at the back, rather than the traditional 4-2-3-1 setup. Ryan Sessegnon was put right into the starting 11 after returning from injury. He came in for Jorge Cuenca, with Calvin Bassey returning to his natural left centre-back position. Timothy Castagne came in for Harry Wilson to complete the back 5 on the right, with Kenny Tete tucking in to act as that third centre-back. And as expected after his injury time equaliser last time out, and after news that he would not be going to Atalanta but more likely staying at the club with a chance of signing a new deal, Rodrigo Muniz started up top with Jimenez on the bench. Antonee Robinson returned to the matchday squad. He came on in the second half, and no Andreas Pereira to be seen as he looks set to be leaving Fulham and perhaps going back to Brazil, with Palmeiras being a likely destination. I can certainly see why Silva's gone with this tactical setup. As I've mentioned before, Ryan Sessegnon isn't the greatest defensively, and given he's returning from injury, he's probably not 100% match fit, so going with a back 5 gives him more protection defensively, and also allows him to go forward, which we know he likes to do and is capable to contribute massively to our attacks. This setup is something we saw last season away at Wolves, which was Sessegnon's first Premier League start for Fulham in under 6 years, where he scored in the opening minute. We could see just how much this helped as Calvin Bassey dealt with Bryan Mbeumo really well, and the defence as a whole had a good performance again, which was really important, especially in the first 20 minutes of the match, with Manchester United coming out of the block fast. Bernd Leno also had his say with a brilliant save to deny Mateusz Cunha, who received the ball over the top from Bayindir in the United goal. Moving up the pitch, and we've got Sasa Lukic, who arguably put in his best performance in a Fulham shirt to date. It was a performance that won him the Royal Caribbean Legend of the Match award, which the less we talk about the name of the award, the better. But looking at the average positions, he was very high up the pitch, with Castagne, Sessegnon and Muniz the only players to be slightly ahead of him. Whilst we're still missing that goal threat from central midfield, with there being times in the match where it would seem that the ball could sit up perfectly just on the edge of the box for a shot and he would pass it sideways, he still contributed massively to our attacks, especially in the second half in that trio of him, Tete and Harry Wilson when he came on for Castagne. And now this is where I'm going to be talking about the officiating. Before we isolate some of the decisions from the match, let's look at the history and relationship that Fulham have with Chris Kavanagh. It all dates back to the Championship with our away match against Preston, with there being 4 reasons to disallow their goal, with the most blatant game of volleyball taking place, yet somehow Kavanagh awarded the goal. Next we have the West Ham fiasco with a dodgy pen given just on the stroke of half time, where Andreas Pereira gets elbowed in the face. Scamacca clearly handles the ball before chipping Leno, and then to put the icing on the cake, a blatant handball against Antonio is also missed, with all 3 of the West Ham goals on the day being controversial. Then you have the obvious Manchester United away match in the FA Cup a couple seasons back, and whilst it was quite stupid on Fulham's end, our frustrations were understandable given a blatant penalty wasn't given to us in the first half. Since then we've actually done quite well in the matches he's officiated, but even then it hasn't gone without controversy, as in our win against Liverpool, a blatant penalty again wasn't awarded in the first 10 minutes of the match. So because of the history of Chris Kavanagh refereeing this fixture, let alone the other times he's done us over, he shouldn't have been in charge of the match on Sunday. Here is the first incident, which was the penalty that was given after an on-field review, which was then missed by Bruno Fernandes. Looking at the replay, I don't think that there's any doubt that there's sufficient contact for a foul on Mason Mount by Bassey, and I also don't think that there's any doubt that there's sufficient contact for a foul on Rodrigo Muniz by Luke Shaw that happens at the same time. So straight away you're thinking that they both in a way cancel each other out and play on is the correct call, which was what was called on field. But even then I'd say that there's more of a foul on Rodrigo Muniz than there is on Mason Mount. Holding or pulling in the box during set-piece situations have been something that referees have been told to crack down on this season, and these are the considerations that the referees have been given by PGMO. That second bullet point, impact on an opponent's ability to play or challenge for the ball. If we look at the replay again, of course I can't show clips due to copyright, but we can see that Mount is going across Bassey towards the middle of the 6-yard area, whereas Muniz is looking to stay at that far post to defend that area of the box. And so if we fast forward a couple frames, we can see where the corner ends up and the dropping zone of the ball. It's exactly where Muniz was looking to challenge for the ball, which is what makes that one more of a foul for me than the Mount one. After the review, Kavanagh announces his decision to the crowd with what appears to be a Mancunian accent, because he's from Manchester, another reason as to why he shouldn't have been on this fixture. Then we move on to the goal scored by United, which ended up being a Rodrigo Muniz own goal. Lenny Yoro wins the first contact with what seems to be, on first viewing, uncontested. That's because Bassey's been pushed with two hands on the back, with clear impact on his ability to challenge for the ball. I don't see anything else but a foul there, and if you're going to recommend a review for a penalty kick, you surely have to recommend a review here. Luckily, we managed to get something out of the match through a goal from Emile Smith-Rowe, who's had two cameos off the bench this season that's practically saved the match for us. His late drive and deflected shot won us the corner which Rodrigo Muniz scored from, and then on Sunday with a run into the box and getting on the end of Iwobi's cross for the equaliser. And similarly to what I said about Joachim Andersen last week, if he can consistently perform like this week in week out after what was an underwhelming season, he would feel like a new signing. He's always had that technical ability, and now he's had a full pre-season and he's been fully integrated and settled in the squad, he can look to fully start his career here at Fulham, and even if it only means he can add just a couple goals to his tally from last season and get into double digits, that could be the difference of European football or not as a possibility. And just from a mental note, it's nice seeing him perform after all the comments he's been getting about his appearance on social media in pre-season. Another player who came off the bench for us and made us 10 times better when he was on the pitch was Antonee Robinson, who we greatly missed last week, even with Bassey's brilliant performance. And his role in the goal showed that. Whilst it wasn't him getting the assist like we were so used to last season, him making this underlapping run meant that Diogo Dalot had to back off a tiny bit, which gave Alex Iwobi that room he needed to put in his signature cross, which Smith-Rowe gets to after losing Fernandes for 1-1. This goal means that it is now 19 goals for substitutes since the start of last season, the most of any Premier League club, which shows how great Marco Silva is at using his squad. Just imagine how good we'd be if we had an even better squad, but yet we haven't signed a single outfield player. I won't go into details of what this squad needs. If you want to check that out for yourself, watch the Brighton review or clips of it on my TikTok and Instagram. But what I'll speak about today is the quotes of Silva in his press conference, and he is far from happy. Whilst deadline day can be fun for us hearing all the rumours, it would be much better for them to be integrated with time to get ready and suited to the squad. We've seen that already with Andersen and Smith-Rowe. Off the pitch we are such a mess, the fans aren't happy and the manager isn't either. We've signed more chefs than players, for God's sake. There's been rumours that the Khans have been trying to sell up, but that wouldn't make much sense to me given that the Riverside isn't even finished. It's overdue by about 5 years. If Tony Khan and Alistair McIntosh really love the club, they'd resign from their positions immediately, as it's clear that this club isn't their top priority. It's got to a point where, unless we get European football, I can't see Silva staying at the end of the season. I don't think he'll go mid-season even if Forest was to sack Nuno. The only way I'd see it is if the Man City job, for example, was miraculously offered to him. One final look at the match stats, and again it just highlights how important it was for us to weather the storm in the opening 20 minutes. After that period it was a very competitive match, and we certainly had a spell with our substitutes to try and go out and get all 3 points. And so we finish game week 2 in 13th. Again, nothing to look into, but we're still unbeaten, and when you apply context to the situation, 2 points is very respectable. Away to a very good Brighton team, and then to a Manchester United team who looks very good in their opening game against Arsenal and has spent a lot of money compared to our 0. Next up is Carabao Cup action against Bristol City at home. Our campaign surely can't go any worse than how it did last season after our 14-13 penalty shootout loss to Preston North End. An opportunity to get Antonee Robinson's match fitness back up, and who knows, maybe an opportunity to see the likes of Seth Ridgen. That'll do for this match review, however. It's a quick turnaround with another one to come this week for that Bristol City match. But in the meantime, follow me on all my socials, stay safe, and thanks for watching.